How about we do another Transformer podcast Patreon listener question? Once again, if you want to be part of the Transformer Slag Patreon, help support the podcast, let us know. We're doing a half-decent job here in the Transformer world, educating you on the news, information, and knowledge of our hobby. Patreon.com/Protoman, or check the pinned comment or the description below. And come join us. What does it get you? Gets your name in the end credit scroll at the end of every segment moving forward if you are a patron. Gets you access to our exclusive Discord where we hang out, break the news, talk Transformers, share information, and then some, especially lore and crazy downloads. And depending on what tier, you might even be part of the Transformer Slag Patreon listener question. We have a Patreon listener question here from the Collector Prime, and the Collector Prime wants to know, hi Proto, hope you're ready for the weekend, and I hope it's good. It's a good one for you. I have a small question, but when searching for older Transformers, Beast Wars 1996 or older Generation 1 molds, how do you weigh the decision on to buy complete versus incomplete? Maybe missing a gut gun or other parts. I've recently bought some older figures without their weapons and wondering if it was a mistake since some weapons are hard to come by. The Collector Prime. I have my opinion on it is probably very different than a lot of other people. And I want to really preface this. This is strictly my own opinion because of just my own collecting habits within the hobby. People know my collection. It's ridiculously huge and it's all about completism. Thus, I put a very heavy emphasis on getting complete stuff. But from my own personal experience, going to BotCons for over 20 years and TFCons for over 15 years, I find that you're better off buying the figure 100% complete and paying more than buying it incomplete and hoping to build up to a complete version. That's the first journey, because I've seen this through conventions, I've seen this through private collectors. Going all the way back to, let's say the early 2000s, they'd buy a extremely loose, incomplete Fortress Maximus. We would call it the Fortress Maximus starter kit back in the day. And they'd slowly build up to getting every accessory and piece and headmaster and gun and turret and everything like that, and slowly buying those pieces. Because in their logic, it was cheaper to do it that way than to buy it 100% complete. And back then, I would agree with them. eBay was still in its early infancy. There wasn't a huge, amount of people in the fandom. There was more of almost a trading kind of aspect, more than just put it on eBay and make your money, let alone buy, sell, trade forums and stuff like that. Today, it's a different story. Now, to give an example, let's say with Beast Wars, a Optimus Primal Optimal Optimus, loose, missing everything, just the core figure itself, is like $30 to $40. 100% complete with all its little blast shields and its missiles and its gun is almost $100 to $150. It's insane, the price discrepancy there, but at the same time, what are the chances of finding every little blast shield and every little clear missile and that gun and everything in the wild? Let alone, and this is another factor too, when people do have those accessories, they ask ridiculously big money for them. I don't want to name names, but there was a regular at BotCon for many years that had a booth. I'll let the comments probably name him, but this guy used to have a booth that was just parts, and he made crazy bank because he would have Wheeljack's missile. And he'd be asking $5 a missile. And if he had the launcher, it was $15. And if he had someone's gun from a figure, it'd be $20. A headmaster would be $40, just the headmaster, not the core figure, not everything, just the headmaster itself. And he would make bank that way. To him, it's almost like you could get a complete Chrome Dome for $100, or you could take that Chrome Dome, sell the head for $50, sell the gun for, $20, sell the core body figure itself for $40. At the end of the day, you probably maybe made more money, but that's how it kind of worked. And it still kind of unfortunately works like that today, where I say to you, then how do you want to experience the figure? And that's because there's a lot of great Transformer figures that if you don't get their accessories and you don't have them complete, you're not missing too much of the experience. A lot of those Generation 1 figures, especially 84, 85, had, I like to call, over accessory, too much stuff that was on the side. Oh, I got to have all 4 missiles for one figure when he could only hold one in his launcher. Kind of ironic. And it's just something, or if it didn't have the launcher at all, you wouldn't really be missing the experience too much. Having a loose, incomplete, G1 1984 sideswipe without his gun and launcher doesn't take away from the experience of a G1 sideswipe. You still have the transformation, you still have the core robot mode. Nothing is really missing outside of a launcher on his shoulder and a red gun in his hand, or a white gun in this case. So it's something that I don't feel you're missing too much, and a loose, incomplete G1 sideswipe as opposed to a 100% complete G1 sideswipe is 2 very different price brackets by quite a margin. Again, going back to like even something like G1 Jetfire. A loose, incomplete Jetfire without his armor pieces and his gun will run you maybe $40, $50, 100% complete, $150 to $200. Huge difference there. Huge difference where it's all about the experience. You could still enjoy that Jetfire. And even going back to Optimal Optimus, I think Optimal Optimus is a fantastic figure, and you don't need to have all those blast shields and pieces and a gun that he never really used in the show and doesn't really hold properly in his toy anyways. So you're not really missing too much. You get the electronic light accessory. I mean, that's caked into the toy, so you don't have to worry about losing that. So you get that enjoyment, the first ever light up Beast Wars toy. So it's kind of something where you're almost better off getting that $40 loose incomplete figure than the 100% complete one. But it really has to do with you as an individual, how you want to experience it. Me, I'm a collector. I love messing with the figures. I appreciate the engineering and stuff, but I'm a completist, so I want to have it 100% complete, and I'm willing to pay that little extra to have it all 100% complete than buying it loose incomplete and spending the next while trying to track down every missile, every piece, everything like that. So it really has to do where you're coming from with that and how much you're willing to spend to get that complete experience. When a lot of the time, if you just kind of want to have the experience, you don't need to have your Insecticons with those little chrome guns. They don't really add to the experience. And combined with the fact that the third party and the 3D printing world is doing such incredible work today, that if you don't care about authenticity, especially that too, I'm pretty sure you could find something of a comparable nature that your figure could hold that'll give you just as much enjoyment. Where it's like you have like, oh, it's, my character's missing his gun, but then you could get one 3D printed that looks exactly like it. Might not be made out of the same ABS plastic and maybe not be the same shade of purple, but it'll give you the same, I guess, general silhouette and enjoyment of display. And at the end of the day, it's just semantics, So it's kind of like a double-sided answer because it really has to do with the individual. Me personally, if having a complete figure is very important to you, I don't suggest buying loose and then trying to find those parts later. It's a headache. If it's not that important to you, and I'll tell you, most Transformer toys are just fine without their accessories. They don't really add to the experience. For every, G1 Blur, that if he's missing his shield, his alt mode is screwed over because then you don't have the front end of the car. There's tons of figures that don't have any accessories, and they're perfectly fine, good-looking figures to begin with. So it really has to do with the individual figures and stuff. Like obviously like certain Beast Wars figures, missing their accessories might be missing the back of their tail or their chest or like something like Wolfang, the entire back of the entire alt mode. Imagine Big Convoy, kind of an extreme example because it's a Beast Wars Neo-Japanese thing. But if you're missing Big Convoy's gun, you're missing like 50% of the toy practically in alt mode. So it's something where it really has to depend on the individual figure and also how you want to experience it. But again, a big pricey toy like Optimal Optimus, I think he's just fantastic on his own without any of those pieces. What a great figure. I mean, I love that toy. He really was a unique price point item for that era. And if you don't have every gun and every missile and every blast shield, you still get the experience of the show and that look and that general feel, and the transformation and all 4 alt modes aren't affected by it too. So it's still pretty awesome. But that's just my take. I don't know. What's your take? What do you think? Do you think that it's just fun to just enjoy the loose incomplete? I mean, it's definitely cheaper. Definitely better on your wallet. But that's one way to see it. And again, if you want to be like our patron over here today and be a Patreon member and help support the podcast. Again, patreon.com/protoman. And I hope the Collector Prime and everyone else who are patrons and YouTube members joins us this Saturday coming up, because we have another giveaway that's exclusive to the patrons and YouTube members of all kinds of stuff, a little bit of a give back to all the fans and stuff that are part of the podcast Patreon and YouTube membership program. So be sure to check that out on Saturday night, and I hope to see you guys then. And again, rock out with the robots in disguise.